Hello, fellow travelers, and welcome to the Traversing the Stars podcast. How are my loyal listeners? Thank you for your continued support. As always, hit that subscribe button, everybody. We have an amazing show for you all because aboard the mothership is John Fleck. You know him as Ambassador K.T.Z on the Orville, now on Hulu. Now come join me as we go traversing the stars. Hello, Mr. Fleck. Thank you so much for coming to the Traversing the Stars podcast.
Well, thank you for having me, Jeff Haas. Pleasure to be here.
Totally my pleasure. I'm a big fan of yours.
Well, hey, I'm a big fan of yours now. So,
That's fantastic. You're welcome to watch all the episodes. I
don't know about all of them, but I'll certainly watch this one.
So I always start off with the question of inspiration. So what inspired you to become an actor and who were your earliest influences?
Oh, boy, how much time do we have? Well, born into the family that I have, I was born acting, survival skills. I learned how to survive. But I really didn't want to be an actor. I'm a late bloomer. I was my mother said I should become an accountant, so I went to I was a business major at Cleveland State University. Nice. And I kept flunking like trigonometry. I just couldn't do it. So anyways, I had a girlfriend at the time, and she said, I'm going to California to audition for an acting school, American Academy of Dramatic Arts. Why don't you come along and audition? I go, oh boy, I don't know how to audition. So anyways, I got some monologue and did it, and they must have been desperate. They took me. And so I was 23, and that's when I started acting. And I guess I had a knack for it, and I took to it. I just kept studying. And so there you have it.
So when you say you're studying, so when you hone your skills as an actor, it was strictly through experience? You taught, it's like self-taught? Did you take classes?
Well, I took a lot of classes. I'm still studying, geez. But like I came out here to go to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, and I got out of there after 2 years. And then, I was living in Los Angeles and doing little theater, and then I started taking tap classes, and then I started taking voice classes, and then improv classes. And, for 40 years I studied, and I still take an acting class like at least once a month just so I don't get rusty.
Really?
And yeah, so and I guess all the classes I took, it kind of developed me to kind of branch out from just acting into writing my own stuff and becoming a performance artist back in the day. So that was great. It gave me a lot more creative possibilities.
So going back to the accounting, does that help at all with your career as an actor? Because now you can actually follow where the money's going.
Well, I'm very blessed, and I've invested wisely. And, my theory was always have more coming in than going out. And it's served me well in my old age here.
So you also said you come from an acting background. So what did your parents think about you moving away from accounting and into acting? Were they supportive? Were they like, oh, God, don't, be careful?
Well, my father was a carpenter, and my mother, she always said, learn how to type, John, so you always survive. And I gotta, thank God she told me that, because I could type like 110 words a minute. And I basically supported myself, through my 20s and 30s as a temporary typist at various agencies and advertising agencies and everything. And, I left, I saw a psychic back in the day, and she said the smartest thing I ever did was to leave Cleveland. What would I have done had I stayed in Cleveland? I probably would have had an office job, like key punching or whatever they called it back in the day. And I came out here, and you could afford to live in California very cheaply. And my father, he was a big old macho guy. He and I never really connected really well, but my mother always said, whatever makes you happy. So, all in all, they were very supportive of me doing what I wanted to do. And I never asked them for any money, which made them happy.
I'm sure that always makes them happy.
Oh, yeah.
You survived it on your own, and you did it through You said, I guess, typing. So that's a fantastic skill to have picked up on.
Well, you could afford to live in Los Angeles. When I moved here, I moved here in, this show you how old I am, but I moved here in 1974 and my rent was $95 a month. Jesus. And into the 80s, the rent, I moved, back in the 80s, I had a whole little cottage up on a hill here in Silver Lake, California, for like $160. Now it's like $2,800 a month, so I don't know how young artists, young actors are doing it. I guess they have to live 10 in a house, but back in the day, boy, the low rents, it afforded me, to pursue my passion.
So you couldn't lock in that rent rate forever, like eternal.
Thank God I bought when I bought,
Yeah. Well, a benefit of the new generation, like I said, $2,800. Can't imagine surviving on that. I mean, that's more than my house that I'm renting right now. Yeah. But then I'm paying mortgages on it. Anyway.
Where are you living? Where do you?
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island. Rhode Island. I like Rhode Island. I've been there many times.
Oh, really? Yeah. For acting or just vacation?
Oh, I had a friend who lived there and was doing a show at Trinity Rep, right? Isn't that? Yep. Yes. So I came to see some shows of his and everything. It's a sweet place.
Yeah, Trinity Rep is fantastic. It's nice. It's a nice little art house in what the rest of Rhode Island, which is pretty boring, but nice to have Trinity Rep around. That makes everything better.
Nice.
So one thing I always do research on my guests, and that I read that they call you number of the NEA 4, which is due to a very famous lawsuit in the 90s. So for the listeners who don't know, can I give a little detail on what that was, and what the involvement was and the impact that had on the arts going forward?
Okay. Well, I'll try to be as succinct as I can. But back in 1989, I was, like I said, I had ventured out into writing my own stuff, and I became labeled a performance artist. I created these solo shows, and they were pretty out there. It was the late 80s, kind of punk rock days, and a friend said, "Oh, you should apply for an NEA grant for the show I was doing, Bless Our Little Fishes," NEA being National Endowment for the Arts grant. And so I applied, and I got it. It was $5,000. And the show, it was somewhat controversial, dealing with religious themes and, sexual themes and alcoholism. I mean, there was a lot of stuff in there. And anyways, we got our grants, and then I remember June of 1990, I had just come home. I'd gotten a cultural affairs grant here in Los Angeles. I did a show at an AIDS hospice, and I came home and I listened to my voice message. Remember when we used to have voice messages, machines, and there were like 30 messages, and it was like, there was one from CNN, and I go, and then what is your comment that, that the National Endowment has taken away your funding? Anyways, me and 3 other controversial performance artists had our grants taken away. So we had some lawyers, the Center for Constitutional Rights and various other ACLU, and we took our case to the Supreme Court, saying that you couldn't apply standards of morality to art. Who's the eye of the beholder? Who gets to define morality? And they actually agreed with us and said, no, you can't. But then the Clinton administration threw I guess you could say a bone to the ultra conservatives, Jesse Helms back in the day, Senator Jesse Helms, who didn't want us there. And anyways, they did say, they finally, on that appeal, they said that the NEA could apply standards of decency. But we did get our grants back. It was only $5,000, our attorneys got like 300,000, but we got our grants back. And so, but unfortunately for the future there was a category called new media genre, which I had gotten this grant from, and they eliminated that category after this whole fracas. So yeah,
that's amazing, because people nowadays, looking at the political culture that we're in, will always argue that now we're more politicized than we ever were before. But going back into the 90s with something like the situation you were in, that seems to argue that we've pretty much always been like this in one way or another.
Boy, what goes around comes around. Yeah, those were the 90s, the culture wars. And hello, here we go again, back in the culture wars. I find, politicians, when they don't have a lot of substance to kind of really go for, they go towards, the culture wars,
Right.
and now we got women's rights. Now we got gay rights. It's like, oy, oy, oy. So, hello. I guess we just got to keep, fighting for our rights. So that's.
So the performance that you did in you said it was around 1990. So do you think it would have had the same level of attention if it had come out now? Would it be as equally shocked by it nowadays? Or not us, but as the conservatives?
Right. Well, it was a different time, and and back in the day, in terms of the art that I was creating, it was very body oriented. There was a lot of nudity, and it was very visceral, and it's just a different world now. I don't think that would necessarily work right now, but back in the day, it seemed to, have resonance. And, I say, it seems so controversial, but the people who came to see it, and there were several, I did it here in New York and, quite a few places around the country, and everybody seemed to like it. So, yeah.
You never know. Maybe nowadays it would have shown up on Netflix.
Well, hey, who knows? But they're cutting, they're going through a big cutback, aren't they? Netflix.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, apparently they've been investing spending money on these shows much faster than they've been making income, which is, I don't know what kind of business model that is, but that's the model, I guess.
Model.
No,
it's coming back to bite them in the ass. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Stranger Things 4 apparently is helping, depending on how many people are using each other's passwords to watch it.
Oh, ain't that the truth? God dang it.
Yeah, it's Stranger Things 4. I mean, it's been great. I think even culturally, I mean, everyone's watching that across the board. Like I said, I mentioned it on a prior interview that I did a couple of days ago, that it feels like it's one of those few shows that everyone is watching again, because we don't have shows like that anymore. But that one seems to be one that everyone has in common now.
It's in the cultural zeitgeist.
Yes.
Stranger Things. Yes.
So looking back at the lawsuit and dealing with Supreme Court and everything else, what does that mean? I mean, have you ever reflected on what that means for artists and the art going forward? I mean, have you seen the impact of it? Has it come up again in other cases?
Well, in terms of how? In terms of like funding and support for
yeah,
art?
like how art's being viewed, maybe legally, how the NEA is handling looks at new art coming out.
The National Endowment, I mean, is pretty much out of it. I mean, in terms of the art that I do and the art that I like, kind of more cutting edge art, they fund the bigger companies, ballet, opera, and theater. But I tend to, I don't know, I like kind of street art. It's just, I like down and dirty kind of art. So I don't know what the funding situation is like now. I stopped applying for funding after that, pretty much. So, and thankfully, at that time it happened, that's when I started to work in TV, so I didn't need the institutional funding, because I was getting, TV, a lot of TV work back then. It's funny, it's like any press is good press, and in the 90s, all of a sudden I started to work, and I got a nice agent, and and then things just started. The 90s were my decade, so to speak, in terms of my earning potential, and I got a couple TV series, and it was a good time. So
yeah, it's amazing. It's sort of, and I feel like conservatives never learn that the more you attack something, the more successful you make that thing. I mean, back in the 90s, I remember, because being growing up, I was a fan of Marilyn Manson. I remember all the shit he got from his music, Indian Christ Superstar, and he became more popular than I think I've ever seen, because they hated him so much. Like, stop. The more you go after something, the more famous you're gonna make it.
Yeah, you're putting it on the microscope. People are hearing about it and seeing it. They're curious,
Right.
And a lot of people just want to go because you don't like it. Well, then I don't like it.
So how would you define performance art?
Oh, Jesus. Well, I have to look back at, how I developed. I don't know what performance art is now. It seems to have been very become theatricalized. It's very, solo theater, and everybody's back in the 80s, not that many people were doing solo work, and especially, because I came out of the whole punk club thing and cabaret, and it was, where you get on top of a bar and start doing stuff, and if people didn't throw beer bottles at you, then then that was a good show. So that was my concept of performance art. What is performance art now? I don't know. I don't think it's that, even though the young people must be doing it. Maybe I'm just not seeing it, because I'm not going out as much. I don't know.
Well,
and yeah.
Well, I'm saying, I mean, one thing that you became that you're well known for from the '90s is Star Trek. You've been in every single iteration of Star Trek in the '90s that's been there. I mean, what is that about, and why Star Trek? I mean, what is it about that franchise?
Well, I don't know. Like I said, I think my first gig on Next Generation, that was like early '90s. I haven't looked at the exact date, but my agent, that was one of the first bookings I got, and then David Livingston, who was a director. I don't know if you directed that, but he was kind of involved in with Rick Berman and stuff, and they started just making me offers, and that they liked my Alien, and I'm good at it. And, I always think of Star Trek as like Alien Shakespeare. Not everybody can do it. And to work in these prosthetics and to have the language and all this technical language, it ain't for the faint of heart, So, but I for some reason, I do Alien well. I think I was born to play interterrestrial aliens.
Well, what did I say about you? That you are the perfect alien.
Hey, what does it say about it? It was a perfect fit,
So, I mean, one thing that Star Trek is connected to as well, and people can argue all they want about it, is that Star Trek is very much a forward-looking, progressive type show, and you were, that seems to follow along what kind of performances you do. Were you intentionally working in Star Trek because it has that ideal?
Oh, like as if I had a choice, like an idealistic choice. I was just a gun for hire, but I do kind of believe in the cosmic energy force that kind of rode that wave of, I don't know, performance and progressive kind of creativity. And I got in that. I got on that gravy train, and I'm really thankful for it.
So what has it meant to you to be part of that franchise? Once again, that franchise is so massive, so many fans, and they're hardcore. I mean, I've never, other than maybe Star Wars and Star Trek, I've never seen it where someone who's in one episode of one show 40 years from now can go in a convention and have lines going around the block for that one episode they were in. I mean, what does that franchise mean to you?
Damn, I wish I had read. Now that you said that, really, are people doing that who have been in one episode and they're going?
Oh yeah, really? I mean, I go to convention all the time. There's if you ever go to Star Wars, I mean, it's, like the first movie, someone who was in costume with one character, the Mos Eisley band, wherever. They have a convention, they have a table, they have lines of people who want their autographs. I mean, it's crazy.
Wow. I've done a couple. It's been a long time since I've done one. The last one I did was in Vegas, God, probably about 13 years ago. And I'm not pursuing it, and they're not asking me to come, so I'm not doing it anymore. But yeah, I just did a podcast with Connor Trenier, and oh shit, now I feel horrible. I can't remember the other fella's name, but yeah, they do a lot of cruises.
Is that Garrett Wong?
Dominic.
Dominic. Okay. Keating.
Yes, from Star Trek Enterprise. Yes. And they do cruises. There's actually like Star Trek cruises. Crazy, huh?
that is awesome. I mean, it's amazing that that connection with fans never seems to go away. I mean, once you're in Star Trek, it is like you forever have enjoyed the family.
It is kind of, yeah, I guess a coveted place, and theater, I mean, TV history, and this franchise. I mean, who knew? I had no idea that it was going to last this long, and I'm grateful. The residuals checks keep trickling in, and I'm very happy about that. And talking with people like you, it's great. I still feel connected to that part of history.
And right now, once again, you're part of the next sci-fi show that's very much Star Trek in its appeal and very much Star Trek in the loyalty of his family, which is the Orville. and you
Right.
played the Krill Ambassador in several episodes of Orville already. So how did you
Mhm.
first become involved with the show?
Well, me and my partner, we took a vacation up in Vancouver and Canada, and of course, the day I get there, my manager goes, "Oh, you got a self tape, a big like 8 pages, and it's due tomorrow." I go, "Great." So, anyways, the people I was staying with, thank God they had the like a tripod and they could help me self tape. So the only instructions I got was that this character you have to speak with a raspy voice. So I've got a raspy voice already, so it was perfect. So I did it, and it didn't expect much, and because there was so much dialogue and I had no time to work on it, I wrote up the dialogue and I posted it on a little poll, so I'd be reading the lines. And anyways, the next morning my manager calls and he said, "Oh, you booked it." So that's how I got it. And it was great. Like I said, it's not for everybody to have to sit in a makeup, trailer for 3 hours at 5 a.m, getting ready. But I'm good at it, and thank God I know how to meditate. And unfortunately, the contact lenses, these giant contact lenses they stick in there, unfortunately, they didn't fit right the first day. So and they were a little off, so I couldn't see anything. And I would have to the only time I could open my eyes was when I was working, and the rest of the time I would have to sit there with them closed. It was challenging. So basically, I'm the first day I remember I'm working with people and I can't see them. So wow, that's when you have to use your acting chops, acting as if. But I guess it worked out good on the first episode. They brought me back for 2 more. So
Yeah, so like I said, you appeared near towards the end of, I believe, the second season.
yes.
Did you know what the Orville was at the time, and did you know what a Krill was? I mean, were you familiar at all with the universe you were entering?
Not really. I did not know. I'd never really seen the show. Once I booked it, I looked at some episodes, on YouTube, just to get the gist of it. But I kind of got, you read the script, and I know what I'm doing as an actor, my motivation, and it worked fine.
Well, what did they tell you about the character and how? And did they give you any other point about how they wanted you to portray him? Anything about information about how Krill would behave in the situations? Anything to?
Well, just I remember working with Seth, and he's great. I mean, God, he's a fabulous actor and nice man. But I remember he says, and he was like directing it too, and he says, meaner. So I just kept getting meaner and meaner and meaner, and he liked it, So I was a mean old son of a gun. But but you don't play mean, you're fighting to be right, to win. We are the Krill will win, and so that was my whole motivation. And like I said, we did 2 more episodes the third season, and and I remember our supreme leader we're reading it, go, "Oh shit, they're taking him away, and they're it's the end of the road for us." And then we're shooting it, and they come in, and then I think John Caesar, the director, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yes. He said, "Okay, no, you guys step aside. They're going to take him. You guys are safe and everything." All right, we'll come back for more episodes. But unfortunately, I don't think there's going to be another season. It looks like it's only season 3. That's how they're going out now.
Well, I mean, what I've heard is actually the show's being so successful. I heard there is talk of 4.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's been doing so well, and it's been so well received. And I got to interview Tom Constantino, who's a co-producer and the editor, and he's like, everyone, if they wanted them back, would come back. So
because I know they didn't pick up people's contracts, so, and that's always tough once you let them go, then negotiation.
right.
Hey, I hope they go for one more season. How is season 3? I haven't watched it yet.
It is so good. It is actually transcendent for sci-fi. I mean, it has definitely, it kind of has out Star Trek in many ways, in how clever the show has been. Really? So if you haven't watched it, trust it's actually been remarkable good television.
We get every friggin' streaming channel except Hulu. So damn it. Maybe I should invest and just do a trial basis for a month.
Yeah, well, luckily I think my T-Mobile cell phone plan came with free Hulu, free basic Hulu, so I get
Oh,
Hulu.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm on T-Mobile. I should call T-Mobile and see
you,
if
you should have a connection, not the commercial. I mean, you're gonna end up with commercials, but you should have a connection to Hulu, I believe.
Oh, okay. But there'll be commercials. It's not commercial free.
Right,
But hey,
right.
okay, that's okay.
I'll take commercials to watch Hulu. I mean, to watch Orville, which is a great commercial for T-Mobile. It's, guys, if you're listening, you now owe us both money. We pre-advertise you guys on the show. So, what was another great thing about the Orville? Was again, Orville being sort of like Star Trek. It's another franchise that you're part of that once again seems to follow some of your kind of ideas as well. So it does seem like once again you gravitate towards each other. These shows gravitate towards you.
Right. Hey, one great thing about wearing all that makeup, you can get as old as you want, and you can always, then the older you get, the better it is because your face kind of moves better. I don't know, there's more skin to hang it on. So it's all good.
So being that you're a veteran of the prosthetic artistry, I guess, you're a prosthetic artist, what have you learned about acting while in prosthetics that has helped you improve your acting techniques?
Well, it's interesting. I remember working on, was it Star Trek Voyager, or which I forget which incarnation, and Paris. He directed. Do you remember the guy's name? Paris. He's directing the show, and the greatest thing I ever learned from him in terms of prosthetic acting: keep your chin down, especially when you're wearing these contact lenses, because it opens your eyes, and that's the money shot. So
really?
Whenever I do these, because usually they're a little. They're superior. They want to be superior, and my first instinct is to raise my my chin. I'm superior, but no, bring your chin down so your eyes open really big. So
really,
that was a good technique I learned.
So for the any fans of our show who also are fans of Star Trek, and so they can stop yelling at the podcast, the name of the actor is Robert Duncan McNeill. He's plays Tom Paris.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, very nice man. Yeah. Another thing about Star Trek, like I referenced, it's somewhat Shakespearean, because you have to be precise. Like I remember auditioning for Star Trek Enterprise, and I'm in the room, Rick Berman and all these people, and I had a long monologue, and I said, and we will be coming to and I go, we're going to just pause the camera there. We do not say coming, we say coming in outer space. And I think that was the thing. Yeah, you had to be precise and it kind of make it human, but not human, So it's interesting dilemma to be involved in.
So when you're playing in the Ambassador K.T.Z, what about the character? Like, how did you view him as an individual? Do you find him to be an enlightening character? Did you view him as a good guy or a bad guy? I mean, how did you approach him as a character?
Well, I'm doing my job. I'm serving my supreme leader. There was somewhat of a fundamentalist religious kind of overlay to this, the Krill, and it's like our way or the highway. Right. And so I am in total service. There will be no diverting. I do human folly, human contradictions. Krill is much superior race than the humans. So that's kind of basically where I was, and I just love to, any chance I could to, put humans in their place, so to speak.
Well, yeah, and in the last episode where he appears, he's part of a treaty with the Union, Planetary Union, which once again many Krill were obviously against it because of the episode. Was he a part of the treaty because he believed in it, or was he part of the treaty because that's his job as the ambassador at that moment?
God, I don't remember all the dirty details of it. But I think he was rather, from what I recall, an opportunistic fellow, talking the talk to survive, to keep his position, but then plotting as well how to survive if that didn't work. So playing both cards and going which way he could survive, so to speak. Yeah.
So how was it? So you also worked with the director. I'm gonna get John. Is it Caesar? Cassar?
I always thought it was John Cesar, but
Cesar. It could be Cesar. Either one works for him. I don't know if he's watching the show. So
Hail Caesar!
Right.
Hail Caesar!
So what was he like to work with, and how did working with him enhance your performance?
Well, I worked, he and Seth really work in tandem together, I feel, and John was, very kind and just, we're pros, we're giving him what he wants. And so much of it is, video, he's watching a video, and of you doing your thing. It's not like the old days where they're right there watching you in front of the camera. So, hey, we got along just splendidly, and he seemed to be okay with what I was doing. So, hey, I didn't get fired, and that's always a good
I mean, when the Orville season 3 was first filmed, that was a couple years ago, wasn't it?
Right. Well, we got in right within like days of when the COVID shutdown happened. I remember it was I was supposed to start shooting in December of 2019. And then it's been moved to January. Okay. And meanwhile, they're having to pay us for all this time, It was a very lucrative time. So it was supposed to be January. And then, oops, no, it's going to be February. Oops, no, it's going to be March. But wait, Ted Danson's there's a conflict with his schedule. So, and we can't, and there's these 2 episodes. So we're going to shoot one day of episode, 5, and then we're going to intersperse it with episode 3. So you didn't quite know where you were, but it took a while. And I remember, it was just when COVID was starting to get in our consciousness, in March of 2020. And I remember everybody on set was, we weren't wearing masks, but, there was that elbow bump. Nobody would shake hands. It was all about elbow bumping. And then within a week, all of a sudden Hollywood shut down. So we got in just under the wire. They couldn't shoot any more episodes. That's why there was, it was like almost 2 years before now. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that wasn't good for the stamina of the show, because you had to take a big long break. But you're saying that the season 3 is fabulous, and who knows, maybe there will be a season 4.
Yeah, I mean, so. It's talked about. My only gauge of a show, because obviously I'm not behind the scenes. I don't know the exact numbers of viewership and whatnot, is the amount of chatter there is on social media. The Orville has had amazing. Right now, the shows that everyone seems to be talking about is Stranger Things season 4, Strange New Worlds, and the Orville season 3. It seems
really?
The 3 things that people always are talking about. And it's been a phenomenal show. They definitely stepped it up in special effects and story.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a big budget show. I mean, they were spending money on this show, which, hey, there's an investment there. I hope they keep it going. Fingers crossed.
Is it weird to have people talk about a character and a performance that is 2 years old for you? For you, it's like old history. For us, it's like, holy crap, this just happened today.
I know when you ask, like, oh, well, what was your motivation or what? I go, oh my God, it's hard to remember. But looking back, I realized what it was. Is it weird? Well, that's the nature of TV and film. I mean, you're always, if you're talking about your performance that's out, on TV, you shot it a year ago, but in this case, it was 2.5 years ago. So,
so what is next for you?
What is next? Well, I continue to, submit self-tapes. That's what we do here in Hollywood, which is so dehumanizing. I miss going in and charming, producers and casting people. And I miss getting an adjustment. You do a reading and then they can give you an adjustment. And that's the fun. And now it's just all, there's no contact anyway. So I continue to do that. And I just finished a 5-week run of a show I did here in Los Angeles at the Odyssey Theater. It ended in March 20th. And I did that and got great reviews, and going to New York to do a little performance at a benefit. And, me and my partner, we're just traveling a lot, we're going to Spain and Portugal in January, February, and that kind of stuff. So life is good.
I'm glad to hear it, sir. And Mr. Fleck, it was an honor talking with you, sir. I'm a big fan. And I can't wait for you to come up with whatever shows you do next and come right back on the show.
Jeff, thank you so much. Okay, thank you.